Hello, everyone. Richard Murray, COO of Telarus, here with another C2C. I'm joined by Boris Kluck out of Tampa, Florida. He is the SVP of Enterprise Sales for Frontier Communications. Boris, why don't you tell us just a little bit about your background, what you do, and what your role is?
Sure. Thanks, Richard. And first of all, thank you so much for inviting us to be part of this. You guys have constructed a really awesome program here. So very excited to be a part of it and gratified that you've given us this opportunity to have a chat with you. Boris Kluck, as you had introduced me, I've been with Frontier now just under a couple of years. Joined originally to head up the small business unit, and then in April of last year took over the responsibility for managing our enterprise business. So I'm responsible for our sales and customer support organizations for what we call our enterprise, medium to large enterprise customer segments across the country.
All right. Well, let's jump right in. Let's talk a little bit about Frontier just to get us started. We're most of the way through the year.
Yeah.
We've got a few months left. Why don't you talk to us about what's coming from Frontier through the rest of 2020?
Absolutely. So I think I've got some exciting news to share, actually, as you are aware, Richard, and I know the majority of your agent community would be very acutely aware as well. We've been going through a restructuring process. We voluntarily entered into Chapter 11 in the middle of April, and on Friday, the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of New York, which has been hearing our case, has confirmed our plan of reorganization. So basically, has approved our plan for restructuring the debt of our company, and that's an exceptionally important milestone for us. We're not finished yet, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but basically that paves the path for us to reduce our debt by about $10 billion. So relieving our debt load from $17.5 billion in debt to about $7.5 billion in debt. So
that is big.
Yeah.
Big news, and just in time for this filming.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have planned it any better, because I think we were originally supposed to do this on Thursday, and I wouldn't have had that news. So you're the first person I've had an opportunity outside of Frontier to share that with. So yeah, it's exciting news. As I said, that's not the complete story. We still have regulatory approvals to go through. But we're actually making good and timely progress on that front. We have 6 states that so far have approved our restructuring plans. We have 25 states in total that we have to get through. It will take us a while. We estimate it will probably be towards the end of the first quarter of next year or into the second quarter before we culminate all of the regulatory approvals. And once that's done, then we can formally emerge from the Chapter 11 process. But all things considered, we've gone through this exceptionally quickly. To get to a court approval of our plan of reorganization in 4 months, I think is quite an achievement, especially when looking at some of our peers that have taken a lot longer to get through that step of the process. So delighted with that news, and hopefully gives you and your agent community the assurance that Frontier is going to come out of this thing a healthier and much more competitive company in the months ahead.
All right.
So that's kind of the.
Yeah. What about outside of the bankruptcy? What do you see from a strategy for Frontier going forward for the year?
Yeah, so our strategy really has been unaltered throughout this entire restructuring. And when I say strategy, I'm talking specifically about our enterprise or commercial strategy, right? And that's been something that we've been working at for the last 18 to 24 months, is really pivoting from a very traditional provider. And when you look at our revenue portfolio today, more than half of our revenue is in TDM voice services, right? And a good chunk of the rest of the revenue is in TDM data services, right? So refashioning the composition of our revenue by getting into more modern, advanced, managed and cloud services is the trajectory that we're on. And so we've, over the last 18 to 24 months, really built out a formidable portfolio to help advance us in that direction. The balance of this year, there's nothing revelational that's going to be coming out of it, but it's more refining and focusing on ensuring that we've got the best product portfolio available in the marketplace. So in fairly rapid succession, we've launched an SD-WAN offering in the last year to 2 years. We have now two hosted VoIP platforms. One we brand Frontier Anywhere, the other we brand Smart Voice. Different sets of capabilities that really cover a continuum of customer needs. We've launched a very robust cloud IT portfolio. In fact, a year ago, we came to market with a disaster recovery as a solution, cloud-based, as well as a array of infrastructure as a service solution. So we can take anything from 1 or 2 servers from a customer and put it into the cloud, or an entire operating environment from on-prem and into the cloud, and we can then even replicate that as a disaster recovery solution. So really, full set of solutions now to help customers as they go through their digital transformations, and we have an answer to support them on that journey. So that's kind of what we're focused on for balance of year, refining and fine-tuning that product portfolio to set us up for even greater success in 2021.
All right. Well, very, very good on that. Let me take that and extend it out just specific into the channel program. What is the strategy and your focus within the channel?
Yeah. So one thing I want to reinforce, and we've been trying to do this ad nauseum over the last couple of years, is underscore the importance of the channel to Frontier. We cannot achieve our growth aspirations without the channel. That is categorically understood by the most senior levels in our organization, and we're adamant that we're going to continue to build capabilities and support growth in the channel. Today, channels generate about 15% of our net new sales. That's not enough. I want to see it in the 20 to 25% range as a minimum over the next 12 to 18 months. So we need to do a lot better to get the confidence of master agents and sub-agents to be able to drive to that. And we've got a plan that we've been working on for the last year or so to try to get us there.
Anything within that plan that you can talk to us about?
Absolutely. All of the feedback that we've received from master agents like you guys and the sub-agent community, we distill it down into 3 things that we have to do really well. The first is we have to have a very slick and competitive commission plan, right? Agents need to be paid, and they need to know how much they're getting paid, and they need to get paid accurately and quickly. So that's kind of one pillar of our channel program. The second is that we have to have a competitive product shelf, right? So that I referenced earlier, we've spent a lot of time over the last 12 or 18 months making sure we fill out our product portfolio, and I'll touch a bit more on that. And then the third pillar, again, very unanimous around the agent and channel community, is you got to make it easy to do business with Frontier. So those are the 3 kind of pillars that we're focused on, and where all of our investments go, and we're making, I think, good progress on all 3. So on the commission front, if you talk to an agent, 24 or 36 months ago about Frontier's commissioning, they would have pulled their hair out, right? It was awful. We had disputes coming out of our ears, couldn't pay commissions on a timely basis, and we spent a lot of time cleaning that up, streamlining our commissions process to the point where in the last year, I haven't heard any complaints about it. I mean, we not to say that we don't have disputes, but we resolve them and quickly and decisively as soon as they arise. So I think we've largely cleaned that piece of the pie up, and I think we're competitive in terms of the commission rates that we pay our partners. And is that consistent with what you've been hearing?
Yeah, just for me to highlight something that you touched on there, something very near and dear to our heart, is what you guys have talked to us about, your investment in tools and automation. Yeah. Obviously, we care about that a lot, and being able to be quick and efficient in everything that we do. And I know you guys have been investing in that, and so that's been really good for us here, and excited for that as we continue to build out those systems together as well. So
yeah. Absolutely, yeah. We've invested very heavily in our portal, our agent portal. That's really just phase 1, right? So that basically confers all of the capabilities that a direct salesperson within our organization has. An agent can now have service availability lookups, getting quotes, contracts out to customers and signed back. All of that is now automated through the portal. The next phase is for sophisticated partners like Telarus to be able to, dip into our portal through APIs, right? So you can leverage your back office systems and not have to have agents deal with, the service provider portal. So that's kind of the next thing that's coming. We've been, again, focusing a lot of time, energy, and money on building out that capability.
All right, well, good. Now, let's just shift gears a little bit and talk
Sure.
to us again more generally with everything that's been changing in our environment. Work at home is becoming more, I guess, accepted and necessary.
Yep.
How do
Yeah.
you see that impacting network investment and build out?
That's a great question. We really haven't seen any reason not to continue to invest in building out our network, right? So our capital investment plan continues unabated. We haven't pulled back on capital. In fact, we're running ahead of budget, so unfavorable to budget on CapEx so far this year in doing that. So I think we may see some shifts in the demand, but the overall demand we fundamentally believe will still be there, right? So bandwidth as an example. So one of the things that we're working on, Richard, is we're seeing increased asks for very, very high bandwidth services. We've sold a couple of custom solutions in the 40 gig range, and we're working on and should have in select markets next year up to 100 gig capabilities, right? So the reliance on connectivity, access to the internet, access to cloud applications is going to continue to be driven by, and in some cases, accelerated by this work at home pivot.
Right, definitely been an acceleration. I agree with that. Let's just shift gears here for a minute and get out of business in terms of Frontier and Telarus for just a minute. I want our audience to be able to benefit from kind of your vast experience and just talk more generally to our audience. I think they can benefit from your perspective on, I think you've done a lot of hiring in your career. Tell us about how you go about that and what you look for.
Yeah. I mean, hiring and, from identifying, selecting, onboarding, training, always very important, right? And I think in today's environment, and particularly so in the current COVID situation, it has become so vital to have top talent in the organization, right? So we at Frontier, we spend an inordinate amount of time on the whole recruitment process. We've got in place now some fairly sophisticated analytic tools. So we have assessments that our candidates have to fill out on behavioral and competency-based parameters. We go through extensive interviewing as well to assure ourselves, and this is, peer interviews, skip level interviews, again, trying to look at the candidate from all lenses to make sure we've got the right person in place. So a ton of time is spent on that identification and selection process, right? Because as you're well aware, it's costly to hire people. If you get the wrong hire, it has a pretty dramatic knock-on effect. So that's one thing we've been doing a lot of, and then onboarding and training has been the other area that we're shifting and calibrating our way through. Because we hire a lot of people, we probably hired 60 or 70 people so far this year alone. It's a formidable task, right, to get them on board. And although they are typically seasoned veterans in the industry, still figuring out how to do it Frontier's way and our products and services takes a lot of effort. So we've gone to classroom-based training. So the first 2 weeks of the new hire is classroom-based. Now, obviously, during the COVID period, that's done on a virtual basis, but that seems to work out quite well. We can essentially replicate the classroom environment using technologies like Zoom and bringing in different product managers and subject matter experts into the new class forums to do that. We also augment that through self-paced learning. So we have a platform called BrainShark, which houses all of our content for product and system and process training. And so the new hires can learn on their own. We have testing and grading that goes on as well. So we make sure that they're ingesting the knowledge and retaining it as well. So we're using quite a sort of wide variety of ways to get our people up and productive as quickly as possible, which again is highly important in these days.
Well, you guys are obviously bigger, have a few HR tools that maybe some of our partners won't, but I think what is universal in what you talked about is recruit, find the right people, test
Yeah.
and interview heavily,
Yeah.
onboard well, have a process for onboarding,
Yeah.
and invest in them and train them.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's pretty universal.
Yeah.
So great.
And the thing we've also learned, I think, too, Richard, is kind of the ongoing, right? So we actually invested starting just under a year ago in a sales enablement team, and so their job and their objectives are tied to new hire success rates. So it's not just 2 weeks of intensive training and then you're on your own. It's constant training and skill training and education throughout the year through their onboarding process, right? Because this is a complex business and it takes a lot to learn. Yeah.
Well, we obviously believe in ongoing training as well. So thanks for helping us reinforce that message. Now, if you were an agent, what would be your focus on how to build your brand and build out their strategy?
Yeah, great question. I think it would be not dissimilar from the mantra that we're driving within our direct sales organization, and that is in order to be successful, and this has been a trend for years now, right? You can't just be a seller, right? You have to be a trusted advisor, and I know the agents hold that role with customers, right? It's just being taken to a new level now, right? The technological acceleration and evolution that we're facing, constant rejuvenation of technologies. Business models are changing in front of our eyes, right? And then you layer on top of that a crisis like we're facing now of unprecedented proportion, COVID, the uncertainty that breeds, right? So helping customers navigate through that, right? Helping them become more adaptive, more versatile, more resilient, and that's the magic, right? And I think the agents that can do that really well are the ones that are going to stand out and be highly successful.
Any advice that you think you could give a new agent or an agent that's been at it for 15 years? What would you tell them to do?
Well, being very selfish here, new agents, one of our mottos is don't go it alone at Frontier, right? So we certainly have invested heavily in resources to help our channels. So if you're a new agent and you want some help, pick up the phone. We're eager and willing to help in any way that we can, whether it's kind of upfront or through the sales process or wherever it happens to be. So don't be shy. Use the resources. Obviously, you guys have incredible resources that you apply to the agents, and we can do the same for them as well. And then for the agent that's been around in the channel for 15 years, I would say, there's not a lot more help we can give them, but we're trying to make it easier for them, right? So be very demanding of us, right? And that will only make us better and help them achieve their goals and help their customers.
All right, good advice. And it's okay to be selfish. This is your time. So absolutely perfect message. I think let's just wrap up with a little bit of a discussion around, what's going on right now. What are you guys doing in terms of work at home?
Yeah, great question. And I think we're all struggling with this, right? What we thought would be a temporary situation is not really turning out to be a temporary situation anymore. So March 16th remains sort of fused in my head as the turning point, if you will. That's the day we made the decision here at Frontier to pivot to work at home. And within that week of March 16th, my organization, as an example, we're about 400 people or so, entirely moved to a work at home model like that. And again, nothing remarkable. A lot of organizations did the same thing. What was cool is we didn't really miss a beat. We knew this was coming. We went out and bought 300 Zoom licenses as an example, just so that every single one of our customer-facing staff would have the capability to communicate virtually with our customers. That was rolled out within a matter of 2 days. And although working at home was not an unusual motion for us, it wasn't a normal way of doing business, right? So we actually rolled out a series of micro learnings over the first 4 to 6 weeks to help our sellers in particular adapt to a virtual selling environment. And in fact, it was ironic. We had just we're just about to launch a new comprehensive training program for our sales team, and it was going to be 2 to 3 day workshops across the country, and then COVID hit. And what we ended up doing is extracting some of the key methodologies from that would work best in the virtual selling environment, and did that over that first 4 to 6 week time period, just to get everybody more comfortable selling in that environment. We ended up actually, that program, that sales training program, we actually ended up delivering virtually in online classroom sessions of about 10 or 15 participants. Instead of having 2 days, because nobody could sit there on a Zoom call for 2 days, we broke it up and spread it over 8 weeks, 2 to 3 hours a week, some pre-work, the virtual classroom session, and then some post-work as well. That seemed to work really well. So I think everybody now is in the groove. We're basically at Frontier, we're thinking that as a minimum, it's end of year, and probably into first or second quarter next year, we'll continue to operate in this essentially virtual environment. But I think we've adapted well. Our clients are in the same boat. Our partners, channel partners and agents are in the same boat. So I think everybody's adapting as well as possible.
Do you guys currently have travel and strict restrictions in place then as well?
Yeah, we are selectively engaging with clients face to face, but under certain parameters in advance, right? So we have kind of a checklist that we ask our salespeople or channel managers to go through before they meet with anybody face to face. But by and large, we're certainly not traveling other than customer facing engagements.
All right, well, great. Well, Boris, I've kind of taken you all over the place. I appreciate
Oh, this has been great. Great discussion.
The incredible update on the bankruptcy, the news there. Is there anything else that maybe I didn't cover that you wanted to just maybe leave our audience with?
I think what I would say is, you know the old adage, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? I think all of us, as we go through this, are going to end up much stronger as a result of this crisis. So as hard and as tough as it has been and will continue to be, I think it is driving us to be much more adaptable, much more versatile, much more resilient. And I think all of us are going to be stronger for it. And we're certainly looking forward to seeing us get out of this and onto the next phase of the future economy, and working with partners like yourselves and your agent community. I'm very excited for the future, very excited, very pumped up, and I know we'll be successful together.
All right, well, great. Thank you very much. I want to thank my guest, Boris Kluck from Frontier Business. I'm Richard Murray, signing off on this episode of C2C.